Welcome to the Pharaoh's Realm podcast. I'm your host, BlackPharoah. And on today's show, it's just me. No, all jokes aside, the guest that I had scheduled unfortunately had a last minute change to their schedule. So today it'll just be me giving you what I call $1,000 worth of game. Not $1 million worth of game. Shout out to Gilly the King and Wallow 267 on the success of their show. And, you know, it is the goal of the Pharaoh's Realm from a different angle and perspective to be as successful as their show. But today I'm going to give you what I feel is $1,000 worth of game and hopefully, you know, drop some knowledge on you up and coming streamers. And for those of you who may have been on the fence about certain things or undecided on the direction to go, hopefully my story on my journey can also, enlighten you and maybe give you somewhat of a blueprint on how to proceed, with your own streaming journey. Before we begin, today's episode is brought to you by Diamond the Doula. Again, if you're looking for a more natural, holistic way towards healing, look no further than diamondthedoula.com. I was recently diagnosed with a bad back, and she sent me some oils for my back so I wouldn't go around smelling like a hospital and smelling like Bengay all day. So putting the oil on my back every day has allowed me a great deal of healing. It allows me to sit here, weekly and bring this podcast to you. And I mean, it's great. Now, she doesn't deal in CBD. That's not her alley. She deals in natural, holistic healing. So again, please make sure you check out diamondthedoula.com. Link will be in the description, and get on your way towards a more natural and essential way of healing. So I want to open up today's podcast talking to you about two streamers that I have the utmost respect for on two different levels of the streaming pendulum. And what I mean is, one is somebody that you guys, most of you streamers will know, and one is a guy that a lot of you may not know. But when I say that this guy's been a big help to me in my career, some of the decisions that I've made, he's somebody that I can definitely lean on. And at some point, we are going to have him on the show as well. But I'm talking first and foremost about Harris Heller and Amor, two streamers that, like I said, I watch their streams. They're definitely in my tops as far as streamers that I watch, or in most cases, I'll go back and watch their VOD content, to kind of catch up, on what they're putting out there and, the information and the jewels that they're dropping. So both streamers recently made a decision to drop their Twitch, partnerships and move into a different direction for two different but similar reasons. And I have the utmost respect for them because, when you achieve, when we all get into the streaming game, the main thing that we're trying to achieve is partnership. That is the goal. That is the ultimate, anybody that gets into streaming, your goal is to make partner on any particular platform that, or the particular platform that you're streaming on. And these two have reached the highest levels of, of that status, obtaining, partnership, but they both decided to walk away. And why, you may ask? Freedom, and as a content creator, the best thing that you can have for yourself is freedom. And it doesn't necessarily mean my financial freedom. It doesn't necessarily mean creative freedom. It just means overall freedom. So one of the things about Twitch, when you are a partner or actually even as an affiliate, they own your content for 24 hours, which means if I do a stream on Twitch, I can't take any content from that stream and put it out. It has to be at least 24 hours. There's at the partner level, which I'm not privy to because I didn't make it to that level. There might be other, things that are included. I know there is a level of exclusivity that you can't stream or restream on other platforms. I mean, there's a lot of levels and a lot of things that, when you get to the higher level that you can't do. But, for most of us creators and somebody, especially like me, now that I'm bringing you, this podcast, I want the freedom to own my own content. And what I mean is that if I decide to go live one day on Twitch, I don't want to have to wait 24 hours to put out, the podcast or anything like that. Because typically when I shoot the podcast, the audio comes out the next day and the video comes out within, usually by that Friday. So within, 2 to 3 days, the video comes out, and I don't want, any platform to have the right to use my platform to market their platform for, other streamers to kind of get them in. And what I mean by that is, when you lock into some of these contracts or some of these agreements, you are basically giving them the right to use their content as you feel. Think of the Dave Chappelle deal, and I think that's the best analogy that I can give. Dave Chappelle, remember when he did the Chappelle show, Comedy Central could do whatever they want with the content. Here's the biggest thing. Dave Chappelle had pitched that show to HBO at one time, right? And this is classic. HBO said, well, why do we need you? We got Chris Rock, right? That was their rebuttal. And here it is in 2020, 2021. What do we see on HBO Max? The Chappelle Show. So, of course, Dave Chappelle was mad because it's like, you didn't want me. Back then you didn't want me. Now I'm hot. You're all on me. Shout out to Mike Jones. They didn't want him, but now when his content got hot, now you want to add him to HBO Max so you can bring subscribers in to watch, the classic, Chappelle Show. I think it was only like 3 seasons. So Dave Chappelle went on his rant like, look, Comedy Central, they paid me back then, but my content has been worth more. Basically, he wants rights to his image and, he wants rights to the name of the show. Now, he could have gone and done another show and, probably drew in more money, but that was his baby. The Chappelle Show was his baby. He shouldn't have to change the name of the show. He shouldn't have to do anything similar to what happened to Nick Cannon with Wild 'N Out when he got fired and there was a whole issue with the name. So, as a content creator, I want to stress to you guys the importance of basically owning your own masters. And the move that Amor and Harris Heller made basically gives them the freedom to own their own content. They don't have to worry about anybody using it for ill-gotten. And I don't want to say ill-gotten gain, that's the wrong word, but for additional financial gain. I think the move was great. It's a move, and I'm letting you guys know here first, it's a move that I'm in the process of making myself. Now, I haven't made, again, partner status on any of the platforms out there, but I do my own editing. I do my own production. I do, everything that you see here with the Pharaoh's Realms podcast. I do all the legwork. I'm not at a point where I can hire a staff, and that's eventually the where I want to get to. I want to give an opportunity to an editor to come in and edit my podcast. I want to give a producer, and even though I have this great, Rodecaster Pro here behind me, and I have this Shure microphone here next to me, doing a lot of the heavy lifting, I still would like to bring in a sound guy, to help with, the production of the podcast, and basically give them, an opportunity to start somewhere here and then eventually move on. Have you noticed, like with ESPN, when you used to watch like Mike and things back in the day, the show producers were constantly changing because, you bring in somebody, you get their feet wet, and then they should move on to bigger and better things. Now, again, with this podcast, I hope to be that ground floor that a lot of upcoming video editors and, like I said, sound people come into, and they learn, how to produce a podcast, how to get a podcast going. I'm going to hopefully be teaching some other streamers on how to get their podcast going. But I want to be that person that when people present their resumes to, bigger, for talk shows or anything bigger than this podcast, hey, this is the way I started. I started on the Pharaoh's Realm podcast. This is my part in what I did in the production. This is what the show has grown to during my time there. And I'm just looking for the next step up in my career. And that's how, as elders, and I'm not an elder yet, I'm in my mid-40s, but as an elder bringing up the next generation, we should arm them with the tools to be successful, to move on. And that's what I want to do here with my podcast. As I've been saying, the guests that I've had so far on the podcast, and I hope you go back, if you haven't done so already, check them out, via your favorite podcast platform, or check them out via YouTube. I have the videos up there. But even the streamers that I've given the platform to, these are streamers that, one, are very near and dear to my heart because I have the utmost respect for them, as I do every streamer that will be on this show. But two, again, they gave their time and energy to bring it to the Pharaoh's realm, to come on this platform and start opening the doors for not only themselves but for the streamers who are coming up behind them to say, hey, this is what our journey's been. So every time that you listen to somebody on the podcast, that's laying, in your embedded in your brain, something that they did that made their podcast successful, or some hurdles that they had to overcome. But it's just laying planting a seed in those of you that listen to the podcast on how to proceed with your own moves. The same way that I learned from Harris Heller and more and renouncing their partnerships, I'm actually now in the process of renouncing my affiliate status with Twitch, my level up creator status with Facebook. That's all going to happen probably within the next 90 days or so. So shout out for those of you that have been supporting me. I definitely appreciate it. I'm probably going to, get a Patreon page to some point, and probably, again, I'm trying to line up some sponsorships right now, including these guys right here. Because this is the throne that I sit in, and this is the throne that I've been sitting in since, I want to say, late 2018. I've had this chair, and it's time for a new one. Technique, hint, hint, time for a new one. But again, I want to be, I just want to move in a different direction with my content, because I do all the heavy lifting. I do the marketing, the promotion, like I said, all the behind the scenes stuff. And yeah, having these platforms, I get it. They, help you because they're giving you the space to record and do all that stuff. I get it. But outside of that, I mean, I saw ads run on one of my live streams. An ad ran, and I didn't even get anything from it. Like, it didn't benefit me, but of course it benefited the person who, whose ad was ran, and of course it benefited Twitch. And I'm not knocking them. Same with Facebook. I'm not knocking them. They have to make money somehow to provide this content for free. But at the same time, even the smaller people deserve, a small piece of the pie. I mean, they give us, the subscriptions, and I can have subscriptions on Twitch. I haven't made that status on Facebook because they changed the game twice since I've been on Facebook Gaming. They changed how you make partnership from when I started back in July to now. It's changed so dry. I still don't even understand it. So, but with all that being said, I just want to be able to own my own content. I want to be in a situation where if they want to use my content, they have to pay me to use my content. And I don't mean, and I'm going to speak on this very bluntly. And if I'm wrong, please, hit me up on Messenger, DM me, let me know if I'm wrong. But Facebook recently did the Black Creators Program. And when I watched the commercial for that, all I saw was streamers that were already partners. So, for those of you that don't know, Facebook did this whole big spiel where, they were giving Black creators $2,500, towards their content creation, and, giving them, and it was supposed to be giving them a bigger platform to get their voices heard and stuff like that. And when I watched the commercial for that, it was all already partner streamers. Now, $2,500, man, and I hope a lot of you guys, well, the smaller guys like me, I hope you guys had initially read the fine print, because they wanted exclusive rights to your content. They wanted to be able to use your content the way that they saw fit, and they could do whatever they wanted with it. They can run commercials, do whatever, and they were only giving you $2,500. That was it. Like, that's nothing compared to, the value of your content and what it would essentially bring back as far as viewership, or just getting people, whether they watched your stream or somebody else's stream, they will still come into Facebook Gaming to watch a stream, and they can use your content however they saw fit. So with that being said, I in hindsight was glad I didn't get selected, because I wouldn't have owned they could have did whatever they wanted with my content, and I had no say so. And for $2,500, it wasn't worth it. But the main issue that I had was, you gave it to partner streamers, to the Black partner streamers already on your platform who applied for it. You gave it to them. Basically, you just gave them a $2,500 bonus, probably to keep a lot of them here at Facebook Gaming. But I know several small streamers that could have used that. I know J.com, Damn Gaming, Rip Gaming, Sagey Bob. I know I'm missing Nina Michon. And I know I'm missing, a lot of other gamers. Those are just 5 of the, streamers off the top of my head, because I didn't put together a whole list. Otherwise, I'd be here all day. But, those are streamers that could have used that $2,500 to put towards their content. They could have got better cameras. They could have spent the money on marketing, because on Facebook, you have to pay for your own ads. You have to run an ad and pay for your own ads. And, they're not giving you, the time or space to say, hey, let me let you run one free ad a month for 2 days or something like that, which would have been great. But they don't do that. They're in the business of making money, and I get it. But there were smaller streamers who could have benefited. And again, if I'm wrong, please let me know if I'm wrong. If there's a small streamer out there that got the money, please let me know. I'll definitely, retract anything that I said. But that was just my perception. One of the streamers, like I said, that I saw was probably one of the top black streamers on Facebook Gaming. And I mean, did he really need the $2,500? I don't know. Maybe he did. But at the same time, he has a platform where he's generating a steady stream of income that, again, a J.com or a Damn or a Sagey Bob, or anybody else that I've mentioned could have used that $2,500 to better and improve their content, especially when they're grinding out on the channel. What more can you ask for, to get, to really invest in small black, like it's almost like investing in small black businesses. And again, I know I'm on this rant about this, but again, you gave money to people that were already in your, they were already in your backyard already. They were already benefiting from the partnership status and the bigger cuts and all that other stuff. They were already benefiting from it. So, Facebook, you could have did a little bit better with that to help the smaller streamer out, to help build their brand. I know a lot of people that grind on Facebook Gaming, and they're struggling, just, for viewership, especially Facebook after your algorithm change. I mean, there was a time when I'm small, but I was getting 15, 20 people in my stream. And then all of a sudden the algorithm changed, and they're still calling it a hiccup in the system. But basically what they did was they stopped sending notifications to people depending on, what time you was typically in the app. So let me just dive a little deeper on that. So I'm typically not in Facebook, let's say between midnight and 7 a.m. I'm not in Facebook, right? So if anybody that I followed overseas would go online, I wouldn't receive a notification that they was online. Now, a lot of my followership on Facebook Gaming was overseas. I had a nice overseas, from Africa, to the Middle East, down into Southeast Asia, that came on, especially when I played my mobile games. They were faithful. They would come watch me play COD Mobile, things like that. And all of a sudden, I wouldn't see them no more. So when I finally got in contact with somebody, he was like, oh, I lay down, but I used to get the notifications when you would go online, but now I'm not getting those. And so many of us have now, who've dealt with Facebook Gaming, we now go into, our notifications of the people that I follow, and they're turned off. We didn't even turn them off. I mean, every time I go into certain streamers' streams, I constantly hear that they, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. I constantly see that I'm not set for notifications, and I don't get the notifications that they're going live. Even one of the guys I stream with, the most, Demo777 Gaming, me and him stream together a lot. I still won't get a notification that he's live. I still won't get anything telling me that he's live. So again, Facebook, you guys have a great opportunity to really improve upon your platform, especially with the Mixer shutdown now being just over 6 months old now or so. So, please, when you go back and you start reinvesting in people, remember those at the bottom that are really grinding to try to bring your platform up. Throw them some incentives. give give a class on how to improve your stream. I mean, you have streamers on there that tell you how to improve their stream, but what works for them, as I said at the start of this podcast, what may work for me may not work for the next guy, and what work for the next guy, may not work for the other guy. Like I said, with Harris Heller and more, with the moves that they made, it may not, a lot of what they did may not work for me, but I took bits and pieces out of what they did to make it work for me. So, I applaud to you guys who continue to stay on that platform. And I'm not saying that the platform is bad. By no means am I saying. I still occasionally will drop a stream on there. I still occasionally drop a stream on Twitch. I haven't really checked out none of the other platforms. But again, I just wanted the ability to own my own masters. And that's what I was looking for, that ability to own my own masters, to own my content and do whatever I please. Because, again, I was doing all the heavy lifting. So as far as the future of content creation, I think, Harris Heller made a good point in his YouTube video about, having everything in one spot and doing, being able just to stream on YouTube and, put his video, his VOD on YouTube. Like, you can't even put a VOD on some of the other platforms and and monetize off of it. He's basically doubling up. He's doubling up from his live streams. Because he's going to monetize from that, even though he doesn't heavily monetize from his live streams on YouTube or from his YouTube or from that particular YouTube channel. But it's going to eventually lead to monetization. And then he can take clips of that, put it on his Alpha Gaming site and, and basically double his money. And that's a smart move. By all means, when I saw that, I was like, oh, damn, I can put my live stream on there, right? My live stream then becomes a VOD, right? So now I can make, potential money through sponsorships or running ads through, if YouTube runs an ad during my live stream, then I can, monetize off of that. I can then have the VOD of the live stream that people are going to go back and watch. And then I can take clips of that and put it on another channel and then even further monetize. And again, is YouTube gaming the future? I don't know. But they just give you way more avenues to monetize. I mean, you really don't monetize too much. I mean, Facebook has that ability to monetize off the clips if you reach, certain levels. Twitch doesn't give you that ability. There's probably more people on YouTube than there is probably even on Facebook and Twitch at this point. Possibly even combined. I don't know what the actual numbers are, but there are a lot of people right now that are on YouTube that you can bring your content to, you can serve up your content to. But again, if I make a clip in Twitch, isn't necessarily going to get the same viewership as it would on YouTube. It might get some ground, some legwork on, Facebook, but it may not necessarily get any legwork on Twitch or Facebook gaming. But you have TikTok, out there, you have Instagram that you can run your clips to. But again, you can monetize everything all in one spot, which is great. And again, is YouTube the future of content creation? It really, to me, seems like that's the way that a lot of people should start really considering, their platform. And again, what worked for me or will potentially work for me may not work for you. And I get it. Again, this is just, Pharoah's 2 cents on the future of content creation. But, make sure, again, you're reading your content agreements. Make sure when you sign up for these programs and stuff that these channels are offering, make sure that, you read the fine print and understand what you may be signing away when you do so, and that's important. Content, owning you hear the stories again, rest in peace to DMX, but you may have read the story that Jay-Z and Beyonce are going to spend $10 million to buy his masters back to give them to his kids. And I mean, through all what DMX has done, he never had the money to buy his own masters, but the record labels could have did whatever they wanted to do with it, and anytime that they got a sale, they were getting a bigger cut. But now that he owns his own, now that the family owns his own masters, they can actually re-release some of his work, remaster it. If you can get the same producer and same music, and they can actually, and I saw this in Drink Champs with Cameron, there's a way that You can redo your music if you have the same producers and stuff like that, kind of like remaster it. And you now own the material yourself. There's like an 8-year window or something like that in which you can do so. So, go check out that episode of Drink Champs when you have a chance with Cameron. Again, he dropped a lot of jewels, especially if you're a musician. But again, all I'm soaking in is owning my own content, being able to do what I want to do with my own content. And that's why, again, as I go into my next thing, a lot of you should consider starting your own LLC. I have an LLC for BlackPharoah Gaming. I'm working on some other things. The podcast, the paperwork is already in for the podcast. We shot a couple of shows already to kind of get the content out there and get the name out there. But also the paperwork is in the motion for that. A lot of things that I'm working on, again, behind the scenes, all started with a conversation that I had with a couple of streamers a couple of months ago when, I just asked them, are they operating as an LLC or are they operating on their own? And they said, nah, brother, go LLC. And that was probably some of the best streaming advice that I received, because look at it this way. A lot of you out there are, when you make affiliate partner or whatever, you're putting your own name into it, right? And that's okay. That's okay. But if, first and foremost, if you are a person who has another job where streaming is like mainly like your part-time job, you just added more money to your income and you just moved yourself into another tax bracket. So what I mean by that is, let's say on your regular 9 to 5, you make $50,000 a year, right? And through one of the platforms, you now make an additional $40,000. Let's just say 50. Just for argument's sake. So so in 1 year you made $100,000. Half came from your regular 9 to 5. The other half came from your stream. When you go down to your tax attorney, your tax person, right? You're used to getting, let's say, $2,000 or $3,000 back because you've only filed from your main job. But now you've moved into a different tax bracket where you may or may not have known, wow, I made, $50,000 off from the platform, but I didn't put 1/3 aside for taxes. I didn't know I had to pay taxes on this. I didn't know, I just spent the money on stuff to reinvest in the stream. So was it a personal purchase or was it a business purchase? And that's a lot of things that you guys got to understand when it comes to making these types of decisions, that you, again, just in my opinion, it's always good to go with a LLC to separate it. Because now this camera that I bought, this mic that I bought, the Rodecaster Pro that I bought, the software that I use, the subscriptions that I for the other streamers that I subscribe to, they all become tax write-offs as part of my business. So now that $50,000 that you made, when you write off all that other stuff, you may end up keeping, I would say streamers probably in the first couple of years, you're going to lose more than then you're going to have more loss than profit, because you're reinvesting, your money back into your stream. You're trying to get a new PC, you're remodeling your office, your streaming space, or things like that. So there's going to be some losses at first, but at the same time, you're not getting hit with this crazy overhead with taxes. And a lot of the moves that you make, you can write off. You can write off your subscriptions to other streaming channels. I bet you a lot of you didn't know that. You can write that off as a business expense, as an education. You're watching these other streamers, you're subscribing to their content to learn how to better your brand. When you go to some of these seminars, they have that. For me, I get emails every day about podcasts and seminars. If I decide to go one, it's an educational expense. I'm trying to better my brand and improve my podcast. Now, please consult a tax attorney, on some of the things, that you may be doing. Again, what I do may not, because of the state that I live in, may not necessarily work for you in the state that you live in. So make sure that you go back and you check with a tax attorney on the laws and how you can do. But again, my biggest Pharoah advice that I can give to any streamer out there is start an LLC, because you're already putting in the time into your stream like a business. I know streamers that stream 6 to 8 hours a day like a regular job. like a regular job. It's your business. What you put into it, like when you see the people who own the little local mom and pop shops, they're in there all day, 10 to 12 hours a day. That's the kind of time that a lot of you are putting into your streams. But if it isn't properly documented, you're not getting the relief that you deserve to, to make your stream better, to make your content better, and again, align yourself in better ways. And again, I can't say enough for the guys that that helped me, that gave me that advice. I'm also a member of Pipeline. If you guys haven't heard of Pipeline, go to pipeline.gg and check it out. If you're interested in Pipeline, let me know. I can help bring you in under some of the guys that I know that have affiliate status. I can help bring you in under them, or if you want to use me, let me know. But Pipeline, helped me with my content creation as far as finding my niche. And I thought it was streaming. I thought streaming was going to be my niche. I thought that was going to be it. But in reality, podcasting is my niche. So again, part of my transition that I talked about earlier is changing from the streamer who does a podcast into the podcaster who is a part-time streamer. And that's how I found my niche. But if it wasn't for that playbook, and studying the things and the networks, and like I said, everybody, half the people who appeared on my podcast already, just in physical people, I would say half of them are already in Pipeline. The other half are outside of Pipeline, maybe considering at some point. But I say all I have to say is, again, there's so many resources out here. I had access to and the reason why I brought up Pipeline was because they have, attorneys that you can ask questions to in their Discord, and and they also do live shows every now and then. And I was able to ask them a question. Now, for those of you that know, just to even meet with an attorney, sometimes you got to pay $200-$300 just to even sit at the table with an attorney. And through Pipeline's membership, I was able to sit down and talk to an attorney and ask questions and ask away. And he told me which way to go with my LLC. Now, I mean, not say told. He advised me which way to go. Of course, I had to make my own choice as the business owner, but he advised me which way to go with my LLC, which right now has worked out great for me. So, if you're looking for something, to invest your time in, definitely check out Pipeline. I'm not getting paid to say this. I'm just letting you know what worked. Again, another thing that worked with me, like I said, as I started deciding on making an LLC, and I was able to talk to one of their attorneys, and I was able to get advice, because again, when tax time come, and we are, as of the time I'm shooting this podcast, we're within that. Actually, it might have gotten to extended to May 21st. I thought I read somewhere, but typically April 15th is tax day. So by the time that you're looking at this, potentially, tax season is upon you, and you have to report that income. But wouldn't it be nice to be able to write off all the stuff that you've done within your stream? Wouldn't that be great? Especially for those of you young kids who don't have any kids yourselves. You're single in school. I mean, if you're in school full time, that helps, a lot as well. But think of all the things you can write off that you've done over the last year, all the money and time that you've invested in your stream that you can actually write off. But again, please make sure that you consult a tax attorney. If you have any questions, like I said, I'm not an attorney. I'm not affiliated with no attorneys or anything like that. But make sure you consult an attorney within your own state or country to see again how that can, how you can write off, your business. Essentially, this is your baby, your business. So I want to also talk about, again, when I say your baby, your business, what you put into this niche of yours, what you put into it is what you get out of it. And I want to be the first to tell you guys, stop worrying about what the guy in the other stream is doing. Because if I sat here and tried to compete with Harris Heller or More, or JD.ST, or Morris Hall and Sweets, or Unicorn Kells, or Demo, or even my brothers within PDA, all people that you've met outside of Harris and More, but all people that you've met as part of my podcast platform, if I tried to operate in their lane, it just wouldn't work for me. What makes them successful streamers may not necessarily work for me. And that's why, when I tell you to stay in your lane, Stay in your lane. When you stay in your lane and you're focused, you're only competing against yourself. And what I mean by that is the level of effort you put into it is what you get out of it. I watch YouTube. If you go back and watch my first two YouTube videos for this podcast, you'll notice I have no overlays. It's just me, and the PDA crew, and me and Demo just talking on the split screen. I was able to do a lot of editing, but I saw other streamers, other podcasters who did videos who had overlays, and I taught myself how to do the overlay. For my platform that I use, Riverside.fm, I taught myself how to do the overlay, and it only took me 20 minutes on something I thought that was going to take me 20 hours to do. I did my first one in 20 minutes. It was that fast. It was really that fast. Once I just kind of understood, using Photoshop, and again, if you're a student, you get a discount. You don't pay full price for Photoshop or anything like that. You get a huge discount, So I took that and I applied it. So when you go to episodes 4 through 6, you'll see the overlays now. You'll see where, it's a real live production because I taught myself, because I stayed in my lane and I didn't worry about what somebody else was doing. I took a blueprint from them. Now, there's nothing wrong with, like I've stated throughout this particular podcast, there's nothing wrong with going in and looking at what somebody else does. Like I said, I looked at Harris Heller's moves. I looked at Amor's moves. I looked at the streamers that I've mentioned, and there's a countless number of streamers that I go into their stream and I just watch how they move, and I just take a little piece of it. And it's okay to take a piece of everybody and what they do to build your own vehicle to drive in your own lane. It's okay. Like JD.SC said when he was on, eat the fish, leave the bones. Yeah, I'm eating the meal, but I'm leaving behind the blueprint for the next person to come on behind me and to be equally successful. But not everything in my blueprint is going to work in your house or on your vehicle. It's not going to work, and that's okay. That's okay. But stop competing against other people. Stop worrying about what the next streamer does. Like I said, for me building my podcast brand, I watch $1 Million Worth of Game, which is where you got today's title from. I watch Drink Champs, just because Nori is an amateur. Nori is an amateur, and same with Wallow and Gilly. We're all amateur journalists that, we're moving into a space that we're basically in a journalism type space with our podcast. But I'm watching how they move and how they grow. And, I'm watching the history and the growth of both their podcasts. I watched the Devin Wade Show as well. He used to be the producer of $1 Million Worth of Game. I watch him a lot as well. Again, because he was the audio guy and the producer behind the show. So I want to see what he does in his own production that I can take and move on into my show. Now, I also watch the Joe Rogan podcast. Why? Because he's interviewing he's interviewing somebody different every week. And that's kind of been my format with my podcast, is just interviewing people. So even though I have some standard questions that I ask, I'm still looking for ways to ask different questions. I'm looking how his body language, how he listens. Now, the difference is that he's in person with his people, where I'm outside, I'm video conferencing with my people, but I still listen to how he structures his questions, how he asks, how he sits back and listens. My last show with JD.ST, I let him do all the talking. Why? Because I was given the platform space for him to speak about his journey, to let you guys know his path. You guys don't want to hear from me all the time. You guys want to hear from the guests and what they do. So, I learned through the Joe Rogan podcast, just let him talk. I don't even think I interrupted him anytime he was talking, because I wanted him to get everything out for you, the viewing and listening audience, to understand the information he was trying to provide to you. But those are things that I learned from watching other podcasts and staying within my lane. So again, when you go to these other streamers' podcasts and when you go to these other streamers' streams, and support doesn't necessarily mean that you have to pay for a subscription, to watch their channel, but you're watching how they interact with their, with their community. You watch it, how their mods, I actually had a bad experience in T-Pain's stream with one of his mods. And one of his mods, I made a comment, and one of his mods said something, and I didn't like what he said, and I just stopped going to his stream. And T-Pain, I love him as an artist, but that's why it's also important to have good mods, because he said, and then he said it. He didn't say my name when he told T-Pain what he said, and they laughed about it. But I'm a grown ass man, dude. There's certain things you can't say to me that I wouldn't take offense to. Especially the New York in me. I definitely wanted to say something. I just said, you know what? I had to be the bigger person, and I had to understand his content isn't for me. He's an entertainer, and his mod said something inappropriate to me, and I let him know that it was inappropriate, and he didn't even it just wore off his back. So also, staying in your lane also means make sure that you're surrounding yourself with quality mods and quality people that are going to bring out the best in you. People that are going to bring out that are going to have your best interest in heart, that are going to say, hey, that content was good, but, or hey, hey, let's think about doing this, because your mods should be part of your production. And I want to give a shout out to Quanticus and Lady Lethal. Quanticus is somebody I've been following since Mixer. Definitely somebody who's given me $1,000 worth of game. And he's, and him and his mod, when she's gaming with him together, it is the funniest thing that you've ever heard. And I said today in their chat, he was, just talking about, he was going very deep today in his chat. And I told him, I said, what makes you you, and what's always made you you, is you're very entertaining. He has a bear, Willis the bear, that's on the back of his chair. That was, and I'm going to have him on the show at some point, but that's what attracted me to the stream. I said, who's this guy with this bear on the back of his chair? But his personality was so outgoing. And then, of course, being from New York, we kind of just like, oh, okay, yo, you from New York? Yo, you can kind of see it. But then, he has one of his mods who's also a former streamer who she understands now the importance of streaming and the importance of being a good mod. But now when they're together, they were playing Far Cry. It was the funniest content and probably some of the best content you will ever see on any kind of stream, because it was just hilarious. And I told them today, them two working together is like when Shaq, Inside the NBA was good when it was just Kenny Smith and Ernie Johnson. When they added Charles Barkley, it brought it a whole nother element. And when they closed it with Shaq, it just took it to a new level. And finding those types of mods that you can bring on, Ricky Live is another one on Facebook that Jeff Starling is was one of his mods, who's now grown his own platform. And Ricky, has kind of blessed him with that. But, on the flip side of that, Jeff being a mod in Ricky's stream now gave him the blueprint to go out on his own and be successful and have his own successful stream. Shout out to the House of Star. But like I said, you're only competing against yourself if you're worried about what's going on in other people's lane. Instead, invite people into your vehicle, take them along for the journey, and then let them go into their own lanes. That's the only way that this content creation is going to be successful. And unfortunately, I've said this several times within, the African-American community. We're so busy giving somebody a boot instead of giving them a hand up. Please, and in my comment, it just isn't directed towards the African-American community, because I do see it across all the platforms. I'm just speaking, into the African-American community, but also into the other, ethnic backgrounds as well. Don't be that person that gives a boot to somebody. Somebody comes into your stream and they ask you, how did you get in the stream, and how did, what is some good advice? The worst thing, and I've said this even on other podcasts, I've said this time and time again, don't tell somebody to be themselves, because they may not know what that is. They may be an introvert, and now on stream they have to be an extrovert. It's going to be hard for them. Don't tell them. Tell them, just give them a brief description. Or if you're a streamer that gets asked that question a lot, make a command. Hey, type in exclamation start, and it'll tell you kind of like how I got my, how I started. Or shoot a video. How about this? How about for some of you streamers out there that are listening, think of the questions that you're more commonly asked in your streams. Make a YouTube video, put a link to it into your commands. So now when they ask you this question, hey, go to my YouTube channel. I talk about that briefly on YouTube. And all you need to do on YouTube, you can use your camera, or you can use your OBS or whatever, or XSplit or whatever software that you're using. You can use that software to create your own little, niche, your little commercial or whatever. And now you're driving traffic to your YouTube channel, to your TikTok, to your Instagram, wherever you feel like you want to post that information. You can drive people to that platform to check it out. Okay, as that meme says, with the with the guy tapping his head with the that's some good Pharoah advice right there. That's I probably just dropped a nugget on you guys, freestyling on the fly as I'm doing this podcast. I just dropped a nugget on you that you may not even have considered. Shoot, I didn't even consider that. Maybe I need to shoot a commercial when people ask me about my streaming journey. And I did something similar a while ago, but now I think I need to redo it. That's how, man. See, I'm even giving myself, $1,000 worth of game. So, but again, if you haven't done so already, please, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. If you're watching on YouTube, definitely, hit that subscribe. We're pushing towards 100, our first 100 followers. We're trying to grow this platform as a means to having some of the smaller streamers on. We're going to have some big streamers on as well, but I want to give a platform to small streamers, to the unknowns that maybe you guys didn't hear of, that need a voice, that, you need to check out their content. And that's what I want to do with this podcast. This podcast isn't about me. Occasionally you'll get episodes like this from me when I'm just, talking on the state of, what's going on in the streaming world, what's going on in the gaming world. I may have those chats by myself every now and then. I hope to make them, far and few. I mainly want guests on here so they can talk about their streaming journey, their creative content experience, and they can become a household name in your house as well. So again, however, you're listening to this podcast, whether it's on Spotify, Anchor, Apple, if you're watching the YouTube vids, I definitely appreciate it. And as I always end my podcast, you could have spent your time doing anything in the world, but you spend it with me. Yo, big up Brooklyn. Yo, Pharoah is out. Yo, shout out to my people of Gersh. Peace.
It's Team Ron, baby.